My friends at EasyCater are workplace catering pros, helping you find food for everything from daily employee meals to staff meetings and special events. Visit easycater.com/leaderassistant to find out more.
Hi, I'm Joanna Mitchell. Today's leadership quote is, "You don't need to have a title to be a leader."
The Leader Assistant podcast exists to encourage and challenge assistants to become confident, game-changing leader assistants.
The Leader Assistant podcast is brought to you by Goody. If you're starting to think about holiday gifts for your team like I am, Goody is a game changer. They have amazing gifts that people will really love, including brands that give back to charitable causes. As a longtime executive assistant, I've always been nervous about holiday gifting season. But thankfully, Goody's platform lets you send one gift or hundreds at the same time without ever worrying about shipping details. Can I get an amen? With Goody, your gift recipients provide all their shipping info, and they can even swap out your gift for another option if they prefer. It's free to start gifting, and you can get a $20 credit when you sign up. Oh, and if you mention you heard about Goody from the Leader Assistant podcast, Goody will add an extra $10 credit to your account. Go to leaderassistant.com/goody to start gifting today. Hey friends, thanks for tuning in to the Leader Assistant podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Burrows, and today is episode 188. You can check out the show notes at leaderassistant.com/188. And I'm very excited to be speaking with Joanna Mitchell. Joanna is author of the book titled The Healthy Virtual Assistant, and she is a copywriter and marketing consultant, and all sorts of things we're going to talk about. So Joanna, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Sydney, Australia.
Lovely, lovely. And are you from there or around there?
No, I'm actually from the UK, a little island called Jersey. But yeah, I've been in Sydney for about 12 years now. So technically Australian as well.
Nice, nice. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe what's one of your favorite hobbies? And, do you have kids? Do you have cats? Are you a dog person? Give us a couple of fun personal tidbits.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, I'm into health. So hobbies, I guess I do a lot of walking, yoga, that kind of thing. I have a 4-year-old boy called Harvey, who keeps me very active and entertained. And I have a cat as well called Gaza, who's also probably just as active as Harvey. So I'm very busy at the moment, but yeah, life's good.
Love it. Love it. Well, tell us about your career now. What kind of was your first foray into the corporate world or career life, and how did your journey kind of take you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I started working in human resources, so mainly for law firms, and I think I got to about 27 and just had kind of a mini kind of, what am I doing with my life? I'm not happy. This isn't what I want to do, kind of meltdown, and decided to leave corporate and pursue something that I'd be a bit more passionate about. And I came across a course on health coaching. So I trained to be a health coach. And whilst I was health coaching, I needed something to supplement my kind of new coaching business, some kind of side hustle that I could do. And I realized that a lot of the people that I'd met from doing the health coaching course and in the health space, they didn't have the same skill set as what I had from my corporate background. I was a little bit more tech savvy, and They were like friends were asking me, could you help me with my website? Could you help me set up this newsletter? How do you do this? I've seen you done this kind of thing. So I started helping them on the side with their online business. I realized that I could actually make some money out of it as calling myself a virtual assistant. So that's really how my virtual assistant business started, because as soon as I came out and said, right, I'm a virtual assistant now, for the health space in particular, because I was working in that industry already, I started getting way more clients for that work rather than coaching. I just realized that I enjoyed it a lot more. So from there, I created my business, The Healthy VA. And yeah, I did that for a few years, and it was really great. I had so much work. I ended up hiring like local VAs as well as offshore VAs. And for a time it was going great, but I got to a point where I started being like the delegator and the manager. So the work coming in, I ended up having to spend my time delegating it to a team rather than doing it myself. And I realized that I actually missed being the person that did the work. So I ended up evolving my work into being more of a consultant, focusing more on like marketing, because I found that type of work was more what I was leaning towards. And I evolved the Healthy VA business into more of an educational blog and a course and now a book for other people aspiring to be virtual assistants and freelancers, and specifically wanting to work within the health and wellness industry.
Nice. So you kind of started off doing the work, had too much work, hired help to help you with the work, and then decided you didn't really want to manage a team, essentially.
Yeah. I'm more, I don't know if you've heard of the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I think it's Michael Gerber, but he talks about when people start businesses, they start it because they love doing the work. And then when it grows, they, naturally become the manager. And then they realize that they actually prefer being a technician over the manager. So So I actually read that book around that time and was like, that I think this is what's happening for me. I want to be the one doing the work and not having a big, multi-person business. And when I started doing virtual assistants, it was still fairly like a new concept. Like VAs were more what you would think of like as offshore virtual assistants in India or the Philippines, charging $5 an hour kind of thing. But so having like a local virtual assistant was still like a fairly new concept. So I found what I needed to do is educate people and business owners as well about what virtual assistants can do and how they can support their businesses. So it kind of evolved when I changed the business to be more an educational platform. It was kind of the right time as well, because a lot of other people were starting to see that being a virtual assistant could be a career option for them too. So it was all very organic and
nice. So
way.
Yeah, so let's kind of dive in a little bit to some of those learnings. So how did you, pick, and how do you recommend others, virtual assistants, freelancers, choose a niche and, pick their expertise or pick like focus, like, and did that, you mentioned that it increased your business when you said, hey, I'm a virtual assistant for the health and wellness industry, versus just in general, I'm a virtual assistant. So talk a little bit about what you've done and how what you've seen in your career, and then how you help other virtual assistants really hone in on, hey, you know what, I'm more of a specialist, in this specific area versus just saying, oh, I can do anything.
Yeah, I mean, the role of a virtual assistant is quite broad, as in like you can do a lot of different things under that category. So by niching in industry, you obviously narrow down the market that you are talking to. But when you start to work with similar businesses, you can notice similar patterns in like the support that they need. And then the potential clients can then see that the experience that you've had working with other health coaches or nutritionists It kind of, I mean, it definitely helps with marketing when you niche, but also whatever you learn by working with like health coaches in particular, or any other health business, you can apply those skills to other industries. But why I think niching, like I recommend niching, is because you tend to work with businesses and industries that you're interested in, and that you've got like experience in as well. So like I was always interested in like health and wellness, and obviously I'd done a health coaching course, so it made sense that I work with those businesses I felt aligned with. But if there's somebody who's like in a previous career has worked with commercial property like businesses, or in an insurance company kind of thing, then niching in those industries might work for them because they've got the experience working with them previously. I think niching is like both what you're interested in, but also just helping your business be more targeted. And does that answer the question well?
Yeah, that's great. I've always there's of course, I say niche, some people say niche, so but this phrase or rhyme doesn't really work depending on how you say the word niche or niche. But I've heard it said that riches are in the niches. And it's just this whole idea of like, listen, you can't be everything to everyone. And charge what you need to charge to have a successful business and all that.
Yeah. I mean, what eventually happens as well when you niche is that you become the go-to person. Like you become known as like the VA for the health industry. It's like, and it's when you can create that type of reputation, it's just much easier to get work. And you become more of a trusted source as well, I guess, because clients feel like you know them and their business. And and like I've ventured out like over the years, and I've done some work for like a company, like a few finance businesses or fintech companies, and I just felt like my enthusiasm for those businesses wasn't the same. So like for me, I need to be feeling really aligned with who I'm working with, not just on a like personal level, but just I want to be helping them in their business because I want their business to grow. So I think if I wasn't interested, or like when it comes to finance, like really understand what it is that they do, it's you kind of don't enjoy the work as much.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the transition from corporate to freelance, which in some ways people are like, oh, I want to be my own boss. But then if you actually become a virtual assistant, you realize you don't really become your own boss. You just have multiple bosses. So what's the transition like, and what would you recommend people consider who are listening thinking, all right, I'm tired of the 9 to 5 going to the office or working for the same organization over and over. Like I want to branch out and travel more or have some freedom that comes with virtual work, but I don't know what it's going to do to leave corporate and become a virtual assistant.
It's a complete mental shift from that employee mentality to business owner mentality. Like obviously as an employee, you're confined to the job description that you were given for that particular role that you're sitting in. And you're also confined to the salary that is paid for that role as well. Whereas when you go out and start your own thing and become a virtual assistant, you can kind of create that all yourself. So one of the things I did when I started the VA work was saying yes to everything that the client needed, within reason, obviously. But and then having to figure out what it is I actually enjoy doing, what do I what I want to do, what I need to develop my skills on, kind of thing. So I ended up creating my own job description by doing that. So I guess it's moving from corporate, you do have a lot of flexibility doing your own thing, but it also comes with having like your own personal discipline, whether that's how you liaise with the clients, what you want to be doing, and then time management as well, and learning how to actually bill for your work. So in a lot of corporate roles, you're there 9 to 5, and you get paid for the time that you're in there, whether you're sat at your desk or not. Whereas when you're a virtual assistant, you're paid for the time that you're actually working. So having to get your head round billing for the time that you're working, and then considering the time that it's taking to be on the phone and to be emailing clients, that kind of thing. It's a complete mental shift.
Yeah.
And actually, like, I feel like it's very hard to be a freelancer. As, you know, when you've come from that kind of world. Like it's exciting and very challenging, but there's a lot to kind of consider, really.
Yeah. So you focus on copywriting and marketing consulting now, right? Is that for the health industry still?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, you know, written communication. Copywriting is such a big part of, really, I mean, it's even more so in the remote world, because you don't have that in-person, you know, verbal and nonverbal cues all the time. It's all a lot more written communication. So what kind of tips would you have for those listening to really improve written communication? Like how have you done, or what have you done to improve your writing, and what's maybe a couple tips for those listening?
Do you mean in terms of, writing from like a marketing perspective, or do you just mean communicating with clients? And
I think a little bit of both, because if we're honest, you know, writing in a market, from a marketing perspective, is all about, you know, story and like being persuasive and relating to the reader and all that, which, I mean, in any email that you send at work or any Slack message, you kind of have to apply those same tactics to your writing, in my opinion. So maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, writing, I feel, is particularly, writing online is kind of where the world's going, really, especially a lot with like remote working going forward. In terms of help with like spelling and grammar, there's some really good tools that you can have in your browser, so that when you're writing, whether it's an email or whether it's, you know, on a website, there's tools like Grammarly and Hemingway, the Hemingway app as well. They're pretty good tools where you actually can type in, say you're typing an email, Grammarly will actually pick up if there's like a spelling error, or if there's a way that you can make that sound more concise. So I find having that quite helpful. And just, I think, like reducing the fluff of, like, if that makes sense, like a lot, like being more concise with what you want to say. That's one of the things I've tried to do is, instead of saying like, hey, I just wanted to ask you such and such, I've tried to be a lot more direct and be like, hey, and then just ask the question. Like there's obviously communicating with people, you want to be polite, but I feel there's also a lot of fluff sometimes with, maybe that's like me coming from my corporate days where, like communicating with lawyers and stuff.
It's like get to the point.
That's something that I've had to kind of be mindful of, is getting clear and concise with what I want to say.
That's helpful. I think one of my favorite quotes, I can't ever remember, I should probably look this up since I say it so often, is the one where it says, you know, I would I would have written you a smaller or a shorter letter if I would have had time or something like that. So it's like
Yeah.
I would have written you a shorter email if I would have had time.
Yeah. What I've been doing recently actually is writing on Twitter, because Twitter is only it's only 142 characters, I think. So things that I want to say, like not necessarily to build a Twitter audience, but things that I want to share, I've been writing them as tweets, because it forces you to be concise, and it forces you to cut out the fluff and the extra words, and doing at least like one tweet every day. And then obviously like reading other people's tweets, that's really helped with becoming more concise and direct. Yeah. And creative as well, actually.
Yeah, I found that too. Like trying to write a tweet, some thought you have, and you just like sit there and you rewrite it like 10 times. Because you're like, oh, I want to say this, but I don't have room. So I got to shorten it, or I got to restate it, or say it a different way. So yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, Joanna, thanks for being on the show. I do want to, I can't let you go without one or two tips on health and wellness, of course, because you're passionate about that industry. And, I know as assistants, and really obviously a lot of different roles these days, we just sit at a computer all day and we skip lunch, or we work through lunch, or we forget to fill our water bottle up, or, we don't move like we need to. So what are some things that in this day and age of, stagnant office or desk work, what are some tips for being healthy and well in this world?
Moving. What I do when I know that, like particularly if I'm having to write something, and I will tend to get like in the zone and lost in what I'm writing, and it'll be like a couple of hours before I realize I've not moved, is I put a timer on my phone, so that when a timer goes off, it kind of breaks that workflow, I guess. And just a reminder for me to get up and go and do, even if it's just a 20-minute walk, or just to go to the kitchen and pour a glass of water or something and come back. Because we don't, like I remember in corporate, you'd constantly be getting up to like print something and go and get it from the printer. And then you'd end up chatting to several people on the way back to your desk. But when you're working from home, you just don't, you can just get sucked into your computer and there for hours. So definitely like setting timers on your phone that will go off every couple of hours to make you move, essentially. I get up a lot earlier now, and I use that time in the morning to do movement, whether that's like actual exercise, like a class, or actually go for a walk, because doing movement earlier in the day or first thing in the morning is much better for your body, and you're kind of a bit more motivated to do it then as well, than rather, all right, I'll do an afternoon class, and then by the time you get to the afternoon and you're working on things, you're more likely to cancel it. So movement first thing in the morning, setting a timer to get you up from your desk throughout the day. Definitely coffee. a coffee in the morning, just to like give you a boost. What
any food tips or like snack tips? Do you have any favorite, like, when that timer does go off and you have, you get up and you go pour yourself a glass of water, but then some of us are like, well, but if I get up and go to the kitchen, then I'm going to, get some junk food. So what's one of your favorite healthy snacks?
Well, I actually try not to snack. So I found that I snack out of boredom sometimes. So I try not to do that, because then I'm eating food that my body doesn't need. So what I do instead is when it's lunchtime, so I try to have lunch between, the standard hours of like 12 till 2. But I make myself like a sufficient lunch, like a big meal. It's not just like something small. Because having a big lunch is good for your digestive system. And like when you used to work in corporate, unless you packed a lunch yourself, you're kind of a slave to the nearest cafes, which don't always have like healthy options. Whereas when you're working from home, you've got the option to make yourself a big meal, big, nice, healthy lunch. So I always take advantage of that. And that gives you a sufficient break as well, because you've got the time to make it, cook it, and then eat it, and then come back to your desk. So rather than like snacking throughout the day, I'd recommend just giving yourself a big lunch.
Nice. What's one of your favorite healthy lunches?
So sometimes I like having eggs, like a huge omelette with lots of veggies and some like sauteed kale and spinach. And I tend to always have a bit of chocolate afterwards as well.
Nice.
It's like a couple of squares of chocolate as like a dessert.
Nice.
A nice cup of tea for the rest of the day.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, Joanna, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing a little bit about your story and a few tips and wisdom for listeners. How can they find you? Where should they connect? And I'll put all these links in the show notes, but what's the best place for people to find you and reach out?
So Twitter and Instagram, I'm Joanna B. Mitch. I'm on the website, The Healthy VA, as well. Yeah, but I'm more active on Twitter these days.
Great. Well, I'll share that link in the show notes, and definitely check out The Healthy Virtual Assistant, Joanna's book, on Amazon and other retailers, and we'll link to all that in the show notes. So thanks again, Joanna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Please review on Apple Podcasts. GoBulls.com